Sometimes you just need a nap. Or do you? Turns out there is a right way and a wrong way to take a nap. Who knew? You're not lounging around on a chase, but you want to find out how to hit your sweet spot for napping. So stay tuned and learn some surprising discoveries about your health and napping. There's a lot of noise in healthcare and you are too busy for fads. I'm Dr. Vicki and this is Healthy Looks Great on You, a lifestyle medicine podcast, life tested, doctor approved. My roomie in college would lay on her dorm-sized bed with a textbook open. She would fold her arms and close her eyes and go to sleep for 20 minutes. Like clockwork. She insisted it helped her focus and remember what she was studying. And she was a straight A student, so I can't argue. But if I tried to take a nap, I'd wake up feeling like I had been run over by a truck. And not a Tesla truck, one of those Raptors or something. So for me, napping was out. But who was right and who was wrong? Well, that depends. Napping can help you relax, feel rested, be more alert so you can study or focus. It might improve your mood and help your memory and performance under the right circumstances. For people like me, it might cause sleep inertia. You know, the Raptor truck situation that takes me about 35 minutes to recover from. And it might affect your sleep at night too, especially if you take longer or more frequent naps. And if you find me sleeping during the day, I'm either sick or completely exhausted. In fact, I recently spoke at a conference and a 2-day trip turned into a 4-day trip. And so I made a little side trip and spent the day with my grandkids. My grandson loves for me to make up stories, and you know I love good stories. So we climbed up into the treehouse and I spun my tales. But after late night travel and the heat of the sun, I laid down and asked him to tell me a story. Next thing I knew, I woke up in the treehouse, flat on my back and alone. And yes, my daughter was concerned when he showed up in the house and reported that Vivi fell asleep in the treehouse. A rare event for me, but for many it's a cultural norm. As many as 1/3 of Americans regularly take a nap. And they even brag about it. If napping were a sport, I'd be an Olympian. Or napping because adulting is hard. So maybe you're wondering, is it normal to need a nap every day? Is it because you don't have good quality sleep or you're perimenopausal or maybe a health condition? Could even be boring, and for that reason, I will make mini medical school an interesting topic today. In fact, we're going to skip a review of the sleep cycles and move straight into your clinical rotations. You have a 68-year-old man in your office with hypertension and borderline diabetes. His BMI is normal, but his wife thinks he could stand to lose a few pounds because she noticed that he's moved his belt to the next notch. But he came to see you because he wakes up exhausted every day, even though he gets adequate sleep. What's the diagnosis? Before you jump to any conclusions, let's look at a second patient with a very different history, but the same diagnosis. She's 54 and she went through menopause early at age 47. She managed to avoid any weight gain with a healthy diet and she stays active. All of her friends take hormones, but her menopausal symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, and moodiness are minimal. She sleeps fine, but she's tired, like really, really tired all the time, even first thing in the morning. So you think maybe they both have obstructive sleep apnea because he fits the classic profile and menopause causes the soft palate to relax, and that increases the risk of obstructive sleep apnea. And more importantly, waking up feeling exhausted is a red flag for sleep apnea. So you order a sleep study and listen, obstructive sleep apnea is a serious disease and must be evaluated and treated by a doctor. But that doesn't mean that sometimes you really do just need a nap. Trust me, I know about working through the night and delivering precious newborn babies. Sleep deprivation ain't good for your health. So napping to catch up may be beneficial, especially if you need to drive. Sleepy driving is thought to cause as many fatal accidents as drunk driving. But some studies show that day sleeping over an hour is associated with more cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. So don't sleep too long. Short naps are best, ideally 20 to 30 minutes. See, my roommate had it figured out all along. If you sleep more than that, you'll likely have a harder time getting up and going afterwards. And it's not just the length that factors into the nap recipe. It's also about timing. Napping really late in the afternoon or in the evening can definitely interfere with nighttime sleep, which can then cause daytime sleepiness, which in turn makes you need a nap during the day, and on and on and on. But morning napping can be problematic too. In one study, long morning naps was associated with a higher hemoglobin A1C level, which is a marker for 3-month blood sugar levels. And speaking of confusing research, in the past, naps were thought to increase the risk of heart attacks. They decrease the risk. We don't really know. And I always thought a nap meant real sleep. But in reality, you can just lay your head down in a comfy, quiet, dark place and close your eyes and rest deeply for a few minutes. There is value in taking a break from your worn-out life. But if you're an Energizer bunny like me and suddenly you need a nap every day, that can be a warning sign. Plus, there's recent research from the United Kingdom that napping is associated with an increased risk of death from all causes. We call that all-cause mortality. And look, we're all mortals, so we are all going to die. But what does a nap have to do with it? We don't exactly know, but in this study, they followed 86,000 folks for 11 years, and 6% of them died from all sorts of things. But there was a statistically significant higher death rate during this time period for nappers, especially those who napped between 11 a.m. and 1 and 1 p.m. and 3. So now early day napping is out. And of course, it's not that simple. But if you all of a sudden find yourself napping, especially if it's an inconsistent pattern, like it used to be a short nap and now it's a long nap, and it's worse if it happens around lunchtime, which is weird, but that's what the study showed. But it could be a reflection of inadequate sleep at night, or an underlying medical condition like cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, depression, or the beginning stages of cognitive decline. The takeaway from the study was that doctors should ask their patients about their sleep habits, including napping. But ultimately, the question for me is, if you're going to ask, then what? First, look for something correctable, like sleep apnea, which again requires treatment by a physician, or insomnia, which is best treated with cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, because both of these conditions are associated with high blood pressure, stroke, more heart attacks, depression, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and even some types of cancer. And healthcare providers should be aware that if a patient has a change in napping habits, like extending naps around noon, it should alert them to certain risk. In another study, in female octogenarians, that is women over the age of 80, increasing daytime sleepiness was associated with a 2-fold increased risk of dementia. Now, it wasn't a huge study, but it points to an interesting area of research. And here's the deal. Does poor sleep increase the risk of dementia, or does dementia cause poor sleep? When it comes to the chicken or the egg, it's the chicken. But this question remains unanswered. Here's what we do know. Short daytime naps can be good. Long lunchtime or late afternoon naps are bad. Short is the sweet spot for naps. But the most important question is, why do you need a nap? If it's your long-standing habit to take a short power nap, then rest assured, napping is part of your daily life, and it's okay and probably even good for you to help you get the edge you need and be productive the rest of the day. On the other hand, if your nap isn't on the agenda and you suddenly can't stay awake even if you try, then that may be a sign of insufficient or inadequate quality of nighttime sleep, and it can signal health issues that need to be evaluated. Okay, so say you've been to the doctor, you don't have any underlying issues like sleep apnea, cognitive decline, or depression that needs to be corrected. What can you do? First of all, make sure you're minding your substances and medications that can interfere with sleep, like caffeine and alcohol. And antihistamines are notorious for causing drowsiness. So discuss any medications, supplements, even over-the-counter stuff with your pharmacist. Second, think about the ways your diet affects your sleep. Simple carbohydrates and sugary foods and beverages can cause a blood sugar spike followed by a crash, and that can make it hard to stay awake. Third is phone a friend. If you're bored, sometimes a stimulating conversation can inject a boost of energy into your day. But of all 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, physical activity can make the most difference in avoiding an excessively long nap. So if your eyelids are drooping and your brain is shutting down and going into neutral, instead of settling into the sofa for an hour, try brisk walking for 20 minutes, preferably outdoors unless you live in an oven like I do. Turn on some music and dance like no one is watching. Just do something to get your heart rate up and get your blood pumping to your sleepy head. When you need a nap, take one. While the treehouse is not the ideal place to get comfy, if you have a sleep deficit caused by, say, the airlines, take a nap. But aerobic exercise reduces inflammation and stress, both physical and mental. So get out and get some exercise. And to answer the question, is napping good or bad? The right length, at the right time, for the right reason is good. But if you're napping because you're not getting good quality sleep at night, listen, you can't sleep better by trying harder. In fact, that will likely create or exacerbate sleep anxiety, and that only makes a bad situation worse. Instead of trying harder to sleep, start sleeping smarter. Go to my website, healthylooksgreatonYou.com, and check out 3 simple strategies to start sleeping smarter tonight, because restorative sleep is part of overall health, and healthy looks great on you.
The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not considered to be a substitute for medical advice. You should continue to follow up with your physician or healthcare provider and take medication as prescribed. Though the information in this podcast is evidence-based, new research may develop and recommendations may change.